what's up, everybody? Got to talk in the microphone, I guess. I forgot. Anyways, I hope you guys are all having a wonderful evening, and I hope your holidays are going somewhat smooth. I know everywhere I go, store for just whatever, lines galore, people just... Man, I went to a store today. I'm not going to say what store because they are the nicest people. They really are. Reeked of body odor. I mean, bad. I was like, crap. I left my mask in the car. And not necessarily for COVID purposes, but to try to, lessen the stench. And they're all really nice, wonderful people, but really it was terrible. Anyways, I didn't come on here to talk about people and their body odor. You're going to deal with all types of personalities during this time of the year. But what I do want to talk about is, I may have uploaded this before, I may not have, but if I didn't, there's one thing that perplexes me, and that's how somebody can mistreat children, especially your own. I mean, it's bad enough to mistreat children in any circumstances, but when somebody goes out of their way to make a child's life a living hell, that is just beyond incomprehensible. Like, what gets in their fucking mind that they want to treat somebody like that? And especially when the child knows himself that, this isn't normal. He sees his friends, he sees his, classmates all having a different type of lifestyle than what he's been afforded. It's not right. When I listened to this over again, I thought, is there something that I missed that, caused this or brought this about? So if I re-upload it again, I apologize to those of you who have watched my videos. If I haven't, then, I definitely want to give a viewer discretion as advised to every story that's on here, because he does a fantastic job. And when I say he, it's Nick Crowley. Does a fantastic job at telling stories and telling, of course, they're true stories. So let's go ahead and give it a listen. And you know what? I totally shut it down. Well, that's smart of me. Why are you going so slow? Come on. Okay, here's where it was.
Hey guys, what's up? It is Harley Dilly.
Our first channel, like many others we've discussed before, doesn't look like much at a glance. It's an account run by a young boy named Harley Dilly, which served as an outlet for him to post videos about his life, his favorite video games, and even the occasional live stream. And quite honestly, the majority of this YouTube channel seems completely normal.
Oh, look at that.
But when looking at this content closer, it becomes more and more apparent that there was darkness lurking behind the scenes. Darkness that would become even more apparent as in December of 2019, Harley Dilly would vanish.
But first, a heartbroken mother waiting for her missing son to walk back into her arms.
Tonight marks 7 days since the disappearance of 14-year-old Harley Dilly.
Like many kids his age, Harley was interested in video games, such as Roblox and Madden, and he had been posting videos of himself playing these games since the young age of 10 years old. Over time, Harley would begin to show his audience more and more about his life, with topics ranging from his hobbies to his recent performances at school. And even through this, there was nothing that really seemed to hint at anything dark happening in Harley's life. But over time, a clear trend starts to emerge within these videos, and that is the fact that Harley and his mother would frequently get in arguments.
So yesterday,
Well, actually today, my mom and I got into an argument because I didn't want to walk to school. Because I live like 4 blocks and it's like 34 degrees.
This is something mentioned multiple times throughout these early videos, and it's nothing all that surprising. I mean, after all, most kids will argue with their parents, and it's likely that Harley was using his channel as an outlet to express his frustrations. But any idea of this being your typical family bickering would soon be thrown out the window in October of 2018, when Harley would hold a now deleted live stream titled, "I'm Scared."
What's up? It is Harley Dilly. Probably one of my worst days of my life. My mom wanted me to go with her to go get a friend, and I said I don't want to. I have work to do, so I want to go home. We argued for about a good 5 minutes. Then she snapped. She said she was gonna call police, and she said she already did. And she locked me out of the house. So right now I'm outside. Yep, the house is locked. I haven't ate anything, and I still haven't even got to get my work done. My mom's gone. She won't answer the phone. I legit was scared.
In the video, we see Harley outside in the cold as he explains that his mother had threatened to call the police on him over an argument that the two had had. On top of this, his mother also locked him outside of the house without any food or water on a frigid October night. Now clearly these aren't really healthy things for his mother to be doing, especially given the fact that at this time, Harley was merely 12 years old. And this extreme punishment came from a situation that didn't seem all that bad. The whole situation is a major red flag that's made all the more concerning after Harley says the following line.
I just want you guys to wish me good luck, because the future could hold bad things for me. I don't want to find out what that could mean.
The relationship between Harley and his mother clearly comes across as toxic within this video, and this was far from a one-time thing. In fact, in details that would later emerge, it would be revealed that Harley's mother had actually called the police on him on 5 separate occasions, one of which coming when he was only 10 years old. Now you might take this information and just assume that Harley was a poorly behaved kid. However, in actuality, Harley had ADHD as well as high-functioning autism, 2 disorders that can cause hyperfixation, outbursts, and many of the behaviors that had led to all of these family arguments. And in these situations, Harley is practically powerless to stop his own outbursts or destructive tendencies. And it's really up to his mother to understand this and find a way to help him with these habits. But rather, it's made clear that she would punish him instead. And it's important to add that with these outbursts, I haven't seen anything stating that they were violent or anything physical. Rather, it just seems that they were merely occasional behavioral issues. And this friction-filled relationship extends past just Harley and his mother. On one particular video, we can hear Harley's father, Marcus, yelling and screaming in the background at Harley's mother and 4-year-old sibling because the young child had spilled their drink.
God damn it! Just fucking don't fucking pop all over the fucking table by throwing this goddamn thing in. Mark, he's 4 years old. All over the electrical. This shit is done. You are so fucking mean. He is a child.
My dad's being an asshole right now. But
Now time would go on and these slight moments of concerning behaviors would show up here and there, but for the most part went unseen from his channel. Harley would eventually switch to a brand new page in 2019 called Harley Dilly 2.0, where he continued posting similar content until eventually, on December 10th, 2019, when he would post a typical looking Madden Mobile gameplay video. A video that would turn out to be one of the darkest on the channel, not because it showcased any family fighting or anything along those lines, but because it would prove to be the last video that Harley would ever make. 1 week later, on December 19th, 2019, Harley would complain of an upset stomach and ask his mother if he could stay home from school. She would not allow him to, however, telling him to, quote, "get your ass to school," and so he left the house, walking towards the school as he always did. Only this time, he wouldn't make it there. Day would turn to night, and not only had Harley not shown up to school, but he wasn't at his home either. And to make matters worse, it was yet another freezing cold night. Still, Harley's parents did not seem overly worried, as they would end up waiting until the next morning to report their son as missing. Harley's mother, Heather, would take to Facebook in a now deleted post begging people to help find her son, but days would quickly pile up into weeks with no sign of the 14-year-old boy. As search efforts ramped up and the story became national news, people began to stumble across Harley's channel, discovering videos like the "I'm Scared" livestream, calling many to question the parents' potential involvement in his disappearance, as it seemed throughout these videos that Harley had been potentially neglected or even abused. This theory was especially prevalent given the fact that they had waited a whole day to report Harley as missing, as well as the cold message that Heather had left Harley with that morning. However, most others believed that Harley had just ran away under the guise of going to school. Either way, authorities had no clue where Harley could have gone, as he just vanished without leaving a trail behind. However, on January 13th, 2020, this would all change. That day, police had searched an empty home across the street, which at the time no one was living in, as it served more as a summer home for the owners. When searching the house, police would find clothing that belonged to Harley, including his jacket, sweatpants, a single sock, and slip-on shoes. His glasses were also found lying there as well. It was clear that Harley had been in that home, but the rooms were all empty, and there was no sign of him at all, other than his clothing. It wasn't until investigators decided to look up the chimney that they would find what they were looking for. Lodged within the narrow, claustrophobic opening was Harley's decomposing body, trapped within its four walls. Coroners would later conclude that he had died of compressive asphyxiation, which happens when respiration is prevented by external pressure of the body. According to official reports, it was believed that Harley had attempted to get inside the locked house, knowing it was vacant, by going through the chimney. Right next to the house stood a telephone pole with prongs like a ladder that he would have likely taken to get up there. Once on the roof, Harley then supposedly attempted to slide down the chimney, an opening that was just 9 by 13 inches. But once halfway down, Harley would become stuck, having just enough room to shed his clothing in an attempt to have just a little bit more space. Unable to climb out of the chimney, and now in a minimal amount of clothing, Harley would have been stuck there in the cold, with virtually no hope of survival, as no one was home to hear his screaming. It would be within that chimney that Harley would slowly suffocate to death. It's a heartbreaking way to go, but even though this is the official conclusion, there are still many who point blame at the parents, with many even thinking that they were somehow involved. This is not only because of the circumstances seen throughout the channel, but also because of the behavior of Harley's father. While police were frantically searching for Harley, his father had allegedly bragged about the amount of coverage that this case was getting. He had also told his colleagues that he was taking out a life insurance policy on Harley just a week after he had disappeared and 2 weeks before his body was found. And when describing the relationship that Marcus had with Harley, his own son, he described it as strained, saying, "We know each other, and there's a relationship there. He knows I'm his dad and he's my son, but the relationship is rocky." Now honestly, I have never heard a father talk like this about their own son, especially when that son was missing. And so I can understand why people have red flags about the parents, especially with the dark clues left behind on his channel. Plus a slew of other minor inconsistencies throughout the entirety of the case that truthfully would require a full documentary to go over every detail. But ultimately, there is no actual concrete physical evidence that proves that this was anything other than an accident. An accident spurred on as a combination of Harley's autism and his frayed relationship with his parents, a relationship that led to his eventual running away and ultimately his death. And seeing it play out through his channel is an eerie thing, as it subtly hints at the fate that would soon befall him. But in Harley's case, these clues were hidden, buried within a channel that was otherwise nothing out of the ordinary. But this isn't always the case. Sometimes you stumble across a dark channel with nothing to hide, and oftentimes those can be the most disturbing.
More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
So before we get to this one, that's pretty shitty and fucked up. I don't know. I mean, there was never a follow-up, and I don't know. I've never done any research into what happened next with the family, but I know the rest of this video is pretty sickening with what... I mean, this was the beginning of YouTube, so almost anything was, you know, anything was a go. So, yeah. Crazy.
Channel takes us all the way back to the spring of 2006, a time that was essentially the dawn of YouTube. It's a period that has left behind some of the strangest contents on the site, and through it all was a single forgotten account known as Leather Smoke Me, a channel seemingly dedicated to smoking cigarettes. The page shows a man who rarely speaks, as he finds creative ways to smoke, with his very first upload being called Gas Mask Smokin'. The video itself is quite uneventful, as this man does exactly what the title says. He smokes a cigarette with the use of a gas mask. And though it's clearly a fairly extreme way of smoking, it's nothing compared to what we'd see in his following videos. Throughout his first year, this man would smoke cigars out of his nose, smoke multiple cigarettes in his mouth, and even a combination of both. It is definitely a strange thing to watch, especially all these years later, but in the realm of early YouTube, it was nothing all that crazy. However, as the years would go by, we would see Leather Smoke Me continue to push boundaries and find new ways to smoke more and more. At one point, he even built a contraption that allowed him to smoke 10 cigarettes at a time. It's really a shocking thing to see, just the way things progressed throughout the early years of this channel, especially knowing the effects that just smoking on an average basis can have on your body. But as time went on, his smoking habits weren't the only noticeable change. In the beginning, we can see that this man looks to be clearly an adult, but definitely isn't all that old. And just based off of the footage provided, he seems to be in decent health, or at least as healthy as someone can be with the lifestyle he was living. But as time goes on, his appearance starts to slowly change. He begins to look much older, with noticeable paleness and aging within his face, and along with this, his appearance becomes much more fragile, to the point where this man looks to be completely withered, even having a noticeable bandage on his neck in his later videos. And all this happened in the span of just a few years, yet it seems like he's aged a lifetime. By 2011, Leather Smoke Me just looks like a shell of a person, but he just kept on smoking and uploading these videos. I mean, his upload frequency was pretty crazy, considering that in just 5 short years, he would post around 229 videos, without ever taking any major time away, something that is somewhat surprising, especially for a channel as small as Leather Smoke Me's. But nonetheless, he seemed to just love making these videos, and he just kept on smoking. Until video 195. In it, we see the unrecognizable man smoking a single cigarette while listening to Lady Gaga's Alejandro. By the ending, the song finishes, and he attempts to speak to his audience, but his words are impossible to understand. The video was posted on July 10th, 2011, with the caption, "Still here and still smoking." this would be the final video he'd ever post. The red flags here are obvious.
See, this I don't really give a shit about. You know why? He brought it on himself for attention. However small, big, whatever his, following was. I know there were some people egging him on, like, oh yeah, you're awesome, and other guys started copying him. But for me to have sympathy for somebody like that is really, really hard. I have sympathy for him as a human being, but when you're bringing it upon yourself, I mean, come on. You know what you're doing is life-altering, and you're fucking killing yourself in front of, a small audience.
An obsessive smoker who was withering before our eyes and just randomly stopped posting on a channel that was so clearly one of his life's passions. It's not hard to speculate on what became of him, and just by following the trail he left behind, the evidence confirms my dark suspicion. In a video uploaded on January 31st of 2011, we see this smoker looking especially ill, something that is confirmed by his description, where he says, "My return after cancer surgery." He elaborates more on this in the following video when he writes, "Hey guys, after a 6-month battle with oral cancer, I'm still here and still smoking. Dave." With this information, we know that Dave had cancer, a cancer likely caused by his rampant smoking. Yet even through a major surgery, he was still continuing to smoke these cigarettes, doing the very thing that likely led to his failing health in the first place. And as it turns out, the cancer would prove to be fatal. I wanted to let Dave's friends on here know that he passed away last night. I have good memories of our friendships over the last 11 years, and he will be missed. This comment, along with multiple others on the channel, addressed to Dave, all seem to confirm what many of us were thinking, that Dave had passed away after posting this final video. It's a channel that is probably as dark as it gets, a man documenting the literal thing that would end up taking his life. And it's so saddening seeing his addiction get to the point that even though he knew it was going to kill him, he just kept on smoking. It's almost as if this channel shows a man in a 5-year-long suicide. Now, though this channel is dark in and of itself, there's a whole other side to this all that might make things even more disturbing. And it's something that initially I had completely missed until I read the following comments. The thread reads, "Smoker with cancer, such a frail man in his late 40s. He loved to smoke." Someone then responds with, "Exactly correct. The man ruined his life. I love it." The original commenter then replies, "Me too. Love the damage that Dave inflicted on his lungs. So f***ing hot. I'm pretty much following in his footsteps. I have an insatiable craving for my smoke." It's an alarming set of comments, as it's almost as if these people were sexualizing Dave's death, and the fact that the smoking had caused this horrible cancer. And it's made even stranger when the commenter says he wanted to follow in his footsteps. It's something that could have easily been chalked up to as a troll, until you realize that throughout many of his videos, even in the beginning, there were similar sexualized comments, with people saying stuff like, "Hot as hell, just missed some lung spit. Hot mate, be great for you to do more vids where we can hear the cough and the wheeze. Hearing that is the hottest thing of all. Keep smoking hard, fella." And, he was starting to show his illness a bit here, with his sunken eyes and getting skinny. Cancer god. Love it when smokers' cancer starts to shrivel them up. Even in YouTube standards, this is a strange comment section, and it's clear that people were viewing Dave's cancer and his death as sexually appealing. And after watching this video, I then realized that Dave's entire channel was seemingly meant to be fetishized, as he posts videos of himself showing off his gut and his wheeze for his audience, knowing that they're enjoying it in a sexual way. He even at one point posted this fairly disturbing clip where he has someone wrapped in latex completely with a gas mask on and then forces them to smoke. All the while he touches himself in a sexual way that I'm clearly not going to show. But this is definite fetish material. And further going off that, He even subscribed to and linked to a number of other smoking channels that were obvious fetish pages as well, that followed the same mold as him, and he went as far as to put these accounts on his home page. And of the 4 separate channels that he links to that showcase other obsessive smokers, none of them have uploaded in years, making me wonder if they suffered from a similar fate. But ultimately, it proves that Dave created this channel not simply as a hobby, but as a fetish as well. Now, having a smoking fetish is a fairly common thing, but it's easy to tell that this is very different than just that, as these people seem to be aroused by the most disturbing parts of smoking: the coughing, the wheezing, and the eventual cancer and death. Now, I've heard of fetishes where people like to watch others destroy their body, typically from overeating, to the point where they become obese and handicapped, along with others who fetishize the idea of doing that to themselves. They like the feeling of their own body shutting down slowly over time, thanks to their destructive behaviors. Although this is something that I wasn't really sure actually existed. But watching this channel, I can't help but wonder if Dave was into something similar. Maybe he liked the idea of his body decaying due to his smoking, and that's why he did it so obsessively, and continued to do it even when his health began to fail. So maybe this was the end game all along with this fetish, but either way, it's dark no matter what, because on one hand, it may have been his overarching goal to end his life by way of cigarette smoking, but on the other hand, if it wasn't, then you just have a group of people who are sexualizing this man's cancer and ultimately his death. But judging by his descriptions and his frequent upload schedule, it's hard to believe that he wasn't at least aware of his audience, even posting videos especially for specific users who left comments making special requests. For his followers, Dave's passing was ultimately something they expected. But for our next channel, the disturbing mark that they would leave came out of nowhere. It was an account that featured sparse and practically unwatched content. The channel's name was Big Money T, and featured just a select few videos by a man named Trent Pashal. Over the course of the next 5 years, it seemed the thing that he would film most was his RC cars and family trips, showcasing his 2 young children, as well as his wife, Savannah. It was the type of content that someone puts on YouTube, so they can look back on and remember their good times with the family. The channel would remain active up until late October of 2020, when it would take the ultimate turn for the worst. Trent would upload a video titled simply by his daughter's full name, as the video was directed at both of Trent's children, as he apologized to them, further stating that this was their mother's fault and that he had caught her cheating.
I'm recording this because I want my daughter to know that I love you, Pascal. I'm so sorry that I've done this. I want you to know that you mean everything to me. I didn't choose this. Your mom chose this. She's been cheating on me for a long time. I didn't do nothing wrong to her.
It's a clip that you can tell is deeply personal, and probably not something that should be posted for everyone to see, as at first many would likely assume that this was in regards to a potential divorce, or something along those lines. But in actuality, what Trent was talking about was far more twisted. On October 21st, 2020, the very day that the video was posted, Trent would hide in the shower of his bathroom, waiting for his wife Savannah to come home. Once Savannah had entered the bathroom, Trent would jump out, pulling a gun and firing twice, hitting her in the stomach. Savannah would later pass away due to her injuries. Immediately after the murder, Trent would post this video to his children, apologizing for murdering their own mother, while at the same time blaming her for all this happening.
I put everything into this relationship. I have done nothing to your mom. I've never hit her. I've never hurt her. I've never called her names.
Throughout the video, Trent appears to cry on multiple occasions, although no tears actually fall.
I haven't done anything wrong. I'm like, why me? My hair's a mess and I look horrible. Oh, sorry. Take these off.
And it comes across as completely emotionless, as he shows no remorse for killing his wife and the mother of his kids. It's also made all the more disturbing, as he's clearly more focused on his hair and his looks, all the whilst he swears up and down that he is a good man.
I'm hurting so bad.
Fucking fake. You know, from one person who could... I'm not trying to sit here and brag and say anything, but I've told many of you guys many times, you know, I'm an actor. I've just wrapped on my 3rd feature film, and this is the worst piece of shit acting I've ever seen. I mean, dude, if you really want to look convincing, go buy a fucking cry stick or get some onions and chop that shit up and put it on your eyes, because you just look like a fucking pathetic piece of shit, which I already know you're gonna do. I've heard this story a few times before, not just on Nick Crowley's page, but on another couple other pages, and he comes across as a fake. I don't even think the wife was having an affair on him. He just believed that to be the case. And here he is concentrating on his looks. Oh, let me remove these glasses. Oh, my hair is a mess. Like, oh yeah, you're so devastated that you're going to give a fuck of how you look. I'm sorry that I'm using such foul language, but it just pisses me off, people like this.
I didn't do nothing wrong to her.
Anything.
I provided what I could. I've done what I could for her. I've done nothing but good for her. And I've treated y'all good. I've done good things for y'all.
Oh, he's talking to the
After
kids.
the video would go live, Trent would then call Savannah's aunt to confess to his crime, and then take off from the home. Police would later find Trent at a local Walmart, where he would pull a gun, but before he could shoot, authorities would open fire, striking the man in 3 separate places. And though being in critical condition, he would go on to survive these injuries, and is currently awaiting trial. It's a shocking crime and an equally as shocking video, especially given the fact that it was addressed to his young children, who now are without their mother. I mean, the whole situation is just wrong. But there is one more detail that makes this video even more disturbing. Throughout this final post, Trent can be seen looking to the right very often in a clearly nervous manner until the end, when something catches his attention, causing him to grab the phone and run into a dark room before the recording would suddenly stop. And at first, I honestly thought that he was just nervous about the police coming and catching him. But in actuality, I don't think that that's the case. Instead, I think that his nervous looks to the side were being done in anticipation to his wife arriving at home. I say this because when he eventually gets up to hide, it sounds like someone had entered the house.
Love me like your own.
And when he walks into this dark room and shuts the camera off, you can clearly hear what seems to be the movement of a shower curtain. This sound is definitely noteworthy, considering the fact that Trent had hid in his shower before killing his wife. So I personally believe that this whole video was premeditated, and rather than this being filmed right after the murder, he filmed this immediately before, as he likely shot and killed Savannah just moments after stopping the recording. It's a revelation that makes his demeanor all the more surprising, as he shows no remorse, regret, or even that much nervousness for that matter, despite knowing what he's about to do. The video itself quickly went viral, as the story became a national talking point, which led to YouTube stepping in and removing Trent's channel altogether, stating multiple community guideline breaches. However, today, this twisted clip can still be found, circulating throughout the site. And as is the case with each of these 3 channels, the videos they have all left behind elicit that same uneasy feeling when you watch them back today, knowing the fate that would soon befall each of them. But out of all these channels, none of them quite match how visually creepy our final page is. The channel's name is Francine Dancer, and before I can even begin to describe her videos, just have a look for yourself. That was a clip taken from her 2010 video called Tomstat Blues 088.avi that plays out the bizarre scene of a cat stuffed animal playing a keyboard, as well as a lady named Francine playing the guitar and singing. But out of all the elements of this decade-old video, it's clear which one is the most concerning. Highlighted within this clip is this off-looking, lifelike figure standing nearly motionless. However, there are certain moments where it appears to be moving, likely as a result of Francine dancing alongside it. It's unclear upon initial viewing what exactly this thing is, but the way it just stands there in such a limp manner implies that whatever it is, it's likely not alive. It's a figure that makes this video extremely unpleasant to watch, and as we're about to see, this wasn't the only clip that would feature it. In fact, in her very next upload, Francine gives us a closer look. It's something to me that appears completely unrecognizable. I mean, the figure does look very mannequin-like. However, this face is like no other mannequin I've ever seen. It looks dirty, almost decrepit. And to make things even darker, this thing appears to be hung by the ceiling. Francine would go on to post 4 total videos featuring this thing before abandoning the channel altogether, having gone unnoticed by the majority of the platform. Well, that was until just recently, when some of these clips were picked up and shared across TikTok, throwing the channel and its strange contents into the limelight. Without context, many felt frightened, with the majority looking to the comments for guidance as to what was happening within these videos. And there, many would share the supposed story of Francine. The story goes that Francine used to be a star on TV, before the partner she performed with eventually passed away, essentially ending the show that the two had made together, and thus ending Francine's lifelong dream of becoming an actress. This would cause Francine to suffer a mental collapse, leading her to steal the body before it was buried and hiding it within her home. Once there, she would film these videos to relive the show that they once had in a desperate showing of denial, until eventually police would intervene and take the body back, leading to the arrest of Francine. Now, normally, something as outlandish as this could easily be chalked up as an internet myth, but in actuality, someone would link to a separate video posted back in 2007, and in it we see her performing with a tall, lanky man who has the same body type as this figure. The figure is always shown wearing a bleach blonde wig, which one would imagine that if this man were to wear a similar wig, then the resemblance would certainly be there. It's a story that is extremely haunting, and if true, would certainly be one of the darkest internet mysteries found to date. But in actuality, it's really anything but. Just by doing some light research, it's revealed that Francine Dancer was in fact a star on TV, but not in the traditional sense. It seems that Francine had starred in a number of public access television shows in LA, where she would become somewhat of a household name thanks to these bizarre shows that she would put together. And these shows were very similar to what we see on her YouTube page, and not just from a content perspective. They are all similar because they both feature the same figure. And the show didn't just run more than a decade ago. It seems that it was actually active as of 2018. And within the clip, we can see Francine dance with not only that notorious lifelike mannequin, but with a new one as well. It's a revelation that completely disproves the myth that this thing was actually a corpse, a theory that baselessly spread around thanks to a few people trying to get a cheap scare out of it. But even though this is the case, what is the actual purpose of this? What are we actually watching here? Well, in other clips posted to YouTube, we see that this figure's name is actually Starry Dancer. It is essentially just a dressed up and painted mannequin. In one episode, Starry is even described as Francine's boyfriend. But ultimately, it seems pretty clear that this is all just an act. It's not an ARG or anything that's meant to be scary. It's just a bizarre, funny show that was really only made creepy due to its lack of context and false stories. And sure, the mannequin is still quite creepy, but the strangeness of it all has helped to propel Francine into a household name for many, while being completely harmless. There's always more to a YouTube channel, and whether it be in a positive or negative way, what we see is never really the whole story. And oftentimes, the pages that seem the scariest end up being the most harmless. It's the accounts that are hidden, buried in a sea of normalcy, that typically hold the darkest secrets. And after 3 installations of this series, I can confidently say that we're just getting started. And I can only imagine what we'll uncover next.
You know, it is so... So the way I was raised by my mom and my mom's side of the family was drastically different from my dad's side of the family. But as a little kid, I was always, taught to respect, your elders, and I never passed judgment. I just knew I felt uncomfortable in certain situations that none of them were really bad or anything. It was just not something that I was used to. And you take so many personalities that are out there. I mean, you don't know what people have hidden in their closet, not figuratively or literally, but just in general. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that woman really scares me, and the one that I have absolutely no remorse for are the 2 gentlemen, the guy who smokes and the guy who kills his wife. I mean, that's just cowardice and chicken shit of that asshole to kill the mother of his children. Okay, what if she did cheat on you? Fucking grow a pair and move on. Yes, it sucks. It hurts. Heartbreak is worse than any other physical pain that I've ever been through. And trust me, I've been through a lot of that shit when I was a fat ass. But your life's not over. You could still find somebody wonderful. And that's what I'm doing at this very moment. Since I've been married, yeah, I went on that match and found out that girls are starting to become more like guys, more promiscuous and stuff. I'm like, I'm past that, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a sweet, nice, young, wonderful woman. Not young, but I mean, somewhere around my age. And they're not a dime a dozen like I used to think so. I mean, they're hard to find. So I'll prefer, to stay single for now until I do find and meet somebody like that. But some people think that all hope is lost because, your spouse no longer loves you, or your spouse, did the, if you were living in, the time of the Romans, yes, your wife would, be labeled an adulteress and have hideous, awful punishments bestowed upon her. But we don't live in that time anymore. Instead, you take it in your hands to kill her and then worrying about how you look. Can you be any more... What's the word I'm looking for here? I don't know. I mean, the words are just escaping my mind right now just because it's hard to fathom how somebody gets to that point, especially like that idiot too, smoking as many cigarettes as he can. Like, how is that sexually erotic? I mean, I don't get it. Like I said, I'll smoke a cigarette every now and then, but I have to be extremely stressed the heck out. And I'm always certain to, you know, have a ton of Altoids and all that. And I'll tell a woman, like, you know, hey, listen, if I get really stressed out and I walk away, I'll have a cigarette. If you don't, that's not up your alley or something, you know, you just let me know. You know, I just want to lay it all out there because I don't want there to be any surprises. You know, I'll tell them I don't drink. I don't mind if you drink, you know, at least you have a DD all the time. And for the most part, anytime I've dated, it works. But you hide shit, and when things come to the forefront, things could end in a blink of an eye. You know, maybe that man didn't do anything to deserve being cheated on, but he obviously wasn't fulfilling something. And even if he did fulfill all her needs, there's just some people that have it in them that are going to cheat. It's just the idiot about the smoking. That one just... I mean, it goes to show you how people get their kicks on certain things. And it's just, you know, hey, he has a bigger audience than me. So him doing that must have definitely worked. But I don't know what to make of people like that. Other than, hey, spread the word about my channel. If you like, subscribe, and all that stuff. If not, you know, leave a dislike. Tell me what you think I could do different. But honestly, the one that just hurts me the most is that little kid. I mean, of course, I haven't followed up on the story. I don't know whatever happened to his parents, but I hope they fucking paid the ultimate sacrifice and were charged with some type of manslaughter or something. I don't know. Anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful night. I'll probably upload another video here or two in a little bit, but thank you guys for watching as always. So I'll see you real soon. Peace.